Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. We're going to do a preview of Game Week 4 in FPL this video. So if you are new to the channel and want to keep up to speed with all the content, please do like and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. Hopefully we can get to 100 subscribers at some point, maybe before the end of the season. That would be fantastic. We're also going to start with a quick review of Game Week 3. So let's get into it. So as we get my scores up on the board here, it was an okay game week, to be honest. As we've discussed previously, rank early in the season doesn't really matter too much. I would say up until about game week 10 is when you want to start then thinking about your own personal goals and aims for the season. But it is better to be doing, scoring more points than less points. So we do still have an overall rank of 150k, down just under 100k from last week. But to be honest, the results didn't really match my expectations. I went into the game week thinking, oh, it's going to be absolutely fantastic, going to get loads of points here. And that is often the case that when you do think that, it doesn't quite happen as you would expect. So we're going to start with the goalkeepers, and Onana did score 0 points. He also got a yellow card. I think he got it for time wasting, but he couldn't take the goal kick because there was two footballs on the pitch. I didn't see it myself, but that's what I heard. It's unfortunate if that's the case, but it is what it is. Matt Turner on the bench with 3 points. Obviously, you're going to think, oh, I should have played Matt Turner instead of Onana. You can't kick yourself too much about that because you can only make the decisions with the information you have at the time. And everyone is going to have lots of points on the bench throughout the season. It's just what happens. So if that was you, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Into defence, and we're going to start talking about Ben Chilwell. I was a little bit gutted that he decided to pass instead of shoot when he was through on goal and he lost the ball. I did think, what are you doing? Even the commentators were saying it was a bizarre decision, but I guess we'll never know. He did keep a clean sheet though, which is why I got him in. I did go for him instead of Gusto. Now, obviously, Gusto got 2 assists, but for me, Ben Chilwell is more of the consistent long-term project, whereas Gusto is someone that'd be better in the short term. And he's sure he got 2 assists, but if Ben Chilwell takes that shot and possibly scores that goal, we wouldn't be complaining and comparing too much. I've went with Saliba, always going to stick with him this game week. He was unfortunate that Fulham scored 2 goals and both were pretty preventable from Arsenal's point of view. So 1 point there isn't ideal. And I did bench a Stupinan at the start of the game week because I thought, Brighton at home to West Ham. Brighton haven't been keeping clean sheets. West Ham are okay going forwards. And that proved to be the right decision, especially when on Sunday afternoon I looked at the Man City lineup and Nathan Ake was starting because I did think if Ake didn't start and he didn't play, Estupinan's a pretty good player to come off your bench. But when Ake was starting, I thought, oh, it's paid off. Sheffield United, they're not going to score against Man City. It was looking good till the 85th minute until they did score. Ake lost a clean sheet, which was unfortunate. But Foden did come on and get an assist in the last few minutes, which was a nice bonus. I was a bit frustrated that Foden didn't come on early. I would like to have seen him have a go at the Sheffield United defence for a bit longer, especially if he can get an assist. Although, a bit of a lucky assist in terms of it, but he's still in the right places at the right times. And I would say that's kind of the deal with Man City players at the moment. I know some of you will had brought Foden in, especially, and be disappointed that he was benched. I think if you've got any Man City players, pretty much anyone other than Haaland at this moment in time, I think you've got to expect them to be rotated and just take it with a pinch of salt when they are. You can't really go chasing the points. You've just got to roll with the punches with Man City. If they play, great. If they don't, that's just how it is. I think really when you're making decisions on who to pick, I go with Foden because when he is playing, he looks really good and he looks like he's going to link the play up well and he's very forward thinking and he's got loads of energy. So it's really, how do they look when they are on the pitch and now they're going to maximise the minutes they get. Rashford got 2 assists, and this is really the sample size that I want from Rashford. He's starting on the left here, and for me, I think this is when I start looking at him properly because that's his position out wide on the left. Got 2 assists. One of them was obviously a foul for the penalty, but you will take those points, and it's nice that he finally contributed for my team. Same with Saka, did score the penalty. I was pretty, nervous when he was taking that penalty because it's one of those moments in your fantasy league game week where it can be a big swinger. He scores the points, probably gets a bonus point or two. If he misses the penalty, he's on minus points. And it's just at this stage of the season such a big point swing for one thing or another. I did actually have blanks from Martinelli and Mbuemo. And Mbuemo, I'm not that bothered about because I got him in as a 6.5 million midfielder, and you're not going to expect, or you shouldn't expect, your 6.5 million midfielders to score every week. If they were going to score every week, there'd be 12 million. So you've got to just tailor your expectations when you're getting in those players, and that's another reason why we say don't chase the points. Martinelli, on the other hand, is that bit more expensive at 8 million, and I am looking at using a free transfer on him this game week, and we'll be discussing the options a bit later in the video. Up front, we had Haaland. He was our captain. He was always going to be our captain. And although he did score, he missed that penalty. But I think, if you did have someone in your team that you wanted to miss a penalty or would minimise the impact of missing a penalty, it would be Haaland because everybody owns him. So if he scores the pen, we basically all get points. And if he misses the pen, we all lose points. So it doesn't affect your rank too much in comparison to everybody else. Ollie Watkins, I'm still happy with 3 assists in 3 games, not scoring, which is a shame, but I'm sure the goal will come sooner rather than later. On to the fixtures for this game week, and we're going to start on Friday night with Luton at home to West Ham. Now, if you are thinking about getting a West Ham player into your team, this seems like a pretty good game week to do it, to be honest. Luton are a team that are looking a bit ropey defensively. West Ham are looking a bit good attacking. And I think that those two are going to come together, and I would guarantee a couple of West Ham goals at least. Now, I don't necessarily think Luton are going to concede 4 or 5 every game week, but I do think there's a chance for West Ham to definitely score points in this one. The afternoon fixture on the Saturday is a pretty straightforward one, to be honest, although you might not own too many players from these teams, but I think if you did, I'd be tempted to start them if you had defenders or maybe you got Pickford. I think this is a classic nil-nil game. And although you might think, there's no way that Everton don't score in 4 games in a row at the start of the season, you would also have said that last week going into game week 3 about them not scoring in 3 games. So it is possible. And if you did own like a Sheffield United defender, I think there's never a better time to play him other than Everton at home. The 3 o'clock kickoffs, we've got Spurs, Chelsea, and Man City all playing. That Man City game is the one to target, I think. Although Fulham did look all right against Arsenal, they obviously did concede a couple of goals as well. And Man City at home, I think, even though there's no Pep, they are going to want to bounce back from that Sheffield United game because a lot of people will have thought they should have scored a lot more goals than that. And on another day, maybe they could have done. But I think Man City are a bit of a dangerous machine when they're down a bit and they've got something to prove. So I would be aware of the bounce back. And for me, I'd be captaining Haaland all day this game week. Again, I just think at this stage of the season, whilst you might end up captaining somebody else who maybe will score a couple more points than Haaland, the risk to reward ratio for me is way off because if Haaland does go and score a hat trick and you find yourself 20, 30 points behind in a single game week compared to everyone else, you've then got that gap to make up, and you can't make that gap up by captaining Haaland, if that makes sense, because everyone else is still going to be captaining Haaland. You're going to have to make up those points with decisions based on the rest of your team. So at this stage of the season, I would just stick with the group and just keep captaining Haaland. The evening kickoff is Brighton Newcastle. Now, for me, I think that's a really interesting game. I'll be interested to see, especially the 4.5 million defenders from Newcastle, because they are on my watch list, really, as opposed to after the international break. The fixtures change for Newcastle, and although they've lost a couple of games, they have been to tough teams and they've not lost by a lot. So I think we're maybe overlooking the Newcastle players a bit too much. I think we probably put too much focus on them after when they beat Aston Villa in the first game of the season, and then we really cooled on them. I think in a couple of game weeks, everyone will be talking about getting Newcastle players in. Sunday's games, and the main one for me is Arsenal Man United. I know a lot of people have a lot of players from Arsenal and Man United playing each other. I wouldn't be too worried about it, to be honest. I think it doesn't necessarily need a load of changes to your team. I think the way both teams are playing, there's probably going to be goals in it anyway because neither defence looks great. So if you've got those midfielders, maybe even an attacker in your fantasy league team, I would just keep them unless there is, a better move elsewhere. I just wouldn't force them out of your team. So my team this game week is going to look as follows. I'm going to start with Onana in net. Now, I've kind of not been caught out a little bit. I've just got a bad week with keeper rotations. Neither keeper for me has a good fixture. So I'm going to go with Onana because, I just think he's got a better chance of keeping a clean sheet or save points than Matt Turner does with Chelsea away. Even though you might think that, neither keeper has a chance of keeping a clean sheet. How many times do you look at your defenders like Nathan Ake and say, oh, there's no way they concede. And then they go and concede. And sometimes it can work the other way around where you think there's no chance of them keeping a clean sheet. And sometimes they do. Surprises happen all the time in football. My defence is going to stay the same. I'm still benching Estupiñán because I just think if Ake plays with Fulham at home, That's a good fixture. Saliba, I think that's just as good as a Stupinan for me. And Chilwell, I've just brought him in and has the best defensive fixture and actually my best chance of getting a clean sheet. I think I'm benching a Stupinan. I might actually be tempted to move Baldock up to first bench player because of that Everton game at home. I think if there was ever a chance to use a Sheffield United player defender, it is that game. And for me, Brighton haven't been keeping clean sheets. A Stupinan isn't going to go score a goal or an assist every single game week. I just think he's one of those players that is maybe just going to start not being overrated, but I think everybody rushed to get him in and didn't quite look at Brighton's defence as a unit as well as the fixtures maybe turning like they are doing now. So I would just be a little bit wary there into midfield, and I'm okay with it, to be honest. Like we said before, Rashford having 2 assists out on the left, I'll be interested to see if he plays there again and how he does against Arsenal, just for that bit more bigger sample size. Same with Saka, really. Although he had an off game in the last one, he is the mainstay in my team, and I think he is someone that can contribute a bit more consistently. And Buemo with Bournemouth at home, I would like to think he'd get a return in that, but even if he doesn't, I think if you're 6.5 million players, think if they're getting like a goal and or an assist every 3 game weeks, I think that's a pretty good return. None of your players are going to score every game week, so really it's can the ones some of them score when others don't, and basically save your team that way. A bit like mine did this week. It was Rashford's first returns of the season and Buemo's first blank of the season. So as long as you can kind of have those points ticking over throughout your team, I think that's pretty good. And we talked about Foden earlier. For me, I think it's just you pick your Man City player and you stick with them. Sometimes they're going to play, sometimes they're not going to play, and you just got to ride it out. Up front, we've got Haaland. We said he's going to be our captain. And Watkins, I don't mind Liverpool away. I don't think Liverpool have actually kept a clean sheet so far this season. So for me, it's something that, Aston Villa are going to get chances in that one. Van Dijk's just had that red card as well, so he'll probably be suspended for the next game, which gives Villa even more chance of scoring. So in terms of my transfers for this game week, I am looking at moving Martinelli. I do have 2 free transfers, so I do need to use one of them unless I wanted just to lose it, which I'm not really a fan of doing. I think if you've just got one free transfer this game week, I would 100% roll that transfer into game week 5. The reason being is after this game week, we're going into the international break. It's going to be about a 2 week gap. That is a huge amount of time in Fantasy League at this stage of the season, 4 weeks in. And you've got players that could get injured on international duty, players that may be injured at the moment coming back and recovering from injuries, players going on long flights all across the world. And I just think it works better to have that flexibility. So for me, if I use my one transfer, I'm still going to have 2 next game week. I'm really looking at possibly getting Sterling in, either him, Bowen, or Madison are my 3 options. So if you do have a particular opinion on which one I should get in, please do put it in the comments because I do read all the comments and try and get back to them. It's always good to know what you guys are thinking. So that's my thoughts. I think my team looks pretty well set up for this game week. But like I say, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the comments. Like and subscribe the video. If you do want to see my latest wildcard team going into game week 4, maybe it will give you some just general transfer advice as well. That link should be on the screen right now. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.